Kites rise highest against the wind, not with it. This is the Kite Flyers Podcast.
All right, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Fabs. Thanks
Today
for having me.
I have, for people that are listening and those that are watching, this is, I think, our first in-person recording of Kite Flyers. And today I have a friend of mine named Mark Fazio, who's a co-founder and co-CEO of the telecommunications company called Mate. They're one of Australia's fastest growing telcos. Exciting time, mate. Exciting time, and I'm happy to have you on the show with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, mate. Love to be here. Always love telling our story. Hopefully inspire somebody to go give it a crack as well.
Yeah, and so this show is all about Kite Flyers, is how you grew your business in the face of obstacles in the metaphor being the wind. And I think a good place to start is obviously orientating with who you are, what the company does, just so our listeners can kind of familiarize. So give us a cliff notes. Mate, when was it founded? What is it that you guys do, and rough sizing of the business as it is today?
Yeah, sure. The controversial part is when Mate actually started. If you speak to the other founders in the business, they'll give you different dates. But from my world, officially, Mate started in April 2016. It was with my identical twin brother, David. And we had the vision to find an opportunity to give ourselves financial freedom in some way, shape or form. You know, our family migrated from Italy with nothing but the shirts on their back to give us a better life, and sort of Mates is our opportunity to give back to them, and and that's what we're doing today. But officially it started in April 2016. My brother David put a laptop in my auntie's backyard to give this thing a crack. I was living in Singapore, working at Microsoft at the time, and doing what I did on the weekends. And if I look at 2 years later into October 2018, still in my auntie's backyard, we had 19 cousins working at the business, nearly 30 people, and we had roughly 35,000 customers still in my auntie's backyard. And then we entered the Deloitte Fast 50, and we got the second fastest tech growing company in Australia behind Afterpay, which this to us said, shit, this thing's really working, it's really happening. I decided to move back from Singapore after all the guilt trip I got from my brother and his kids saying that I don't love them and all these different things. And lo and behold, if I look at where we are now, well, what are we now? 6-7 years later, we're a 9-digit company, so 100+ million business. We've got hundreds of thousands of customers. We've got 132 people working with us as of yesterday. And we're rocking and rolling, and something that was never supposed to be what it is what it is today. And now we've got the ambition to take it to the next level tomorrow. And so I'm excited, I'm pumped, but geez, it's not easy.
And that's what this show is going to be about. And congratulations. Obviously, there was something in your auntie's sauce that
absolutely
made it work. Love Isabella, mate.
Yeah, Isabella. If you're ever coming past Wetherill Park, come and try my auntie's meatballs. Fantastic.
It's a secret sauce.
Bellissimo.
And so, okay, let's get into it then. So before we get into how difficult things must have been and how you overcome them, why did you get into telco in the first place? So why did you and your brother get into telco?
Yeah, I mean, I think telco specifically, the reason why we got into telco was more for my brother, right? That's his background. That's what he used to do. He was a general manager of wholesale sales for a business called M2 at the time, which are now called Focus. And he knew all the operations and the back end stuff to make an internet network and a mobile network work, right? And so we said, what business can we do with the skills that we have? And I come from a tech sales and marketing background. I've been at BlackBerry, so I was in telco, I was in VoIP for Engine, and I was at Microsoft. So, tech and this type of area really came to me, right? I knew what I was doing, and then Dave knew what he was doing from a telco perspective. But the reason why we chose telco to get cracking was because the NBN was starting to be rolled out. And if I look back then, ADSL was still the main form of internet for customers, and it was crap, right? And but Telstra's and the Optuses of the world, and even Aussie Broadband back then, were getting 70 points of margin connecting customers to ADSL. And so, in no time quick were they ever going to switch to selling NBN. And we said, let's get a head start. Let's be the experts for NBN. Let's start selling NBN first and get a bit of a head start on the market with actually getting people connected to NBN. And that was the opportunity we saw, and we went for it. David had the experience and the understanding to get us a connection with a wholesale partner. I guess I had the ability to market it in some way, shape, or form. We had cousins that had a bit of investment to help us get there, and the rest is history. And I just think we found a niche, which was NBN, which wasn't being pushed. And if you look at the NBN, really only up until end of 2020 was the rollout completed, right? And so theoretically, you'll see that people were still connecting people to ADSL during the 2020 period. And so that was the opportunity. We saw the opportunity to get a head start in the NBN market.
Right. Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. In 2015, 16, that's when the ADSL started kind of going down.
Exactly.
And NBN started going up. But at that same time, paint the picture for me of the environment that you're going into. So I would imagine you've got these big juggernauts, like you said, Telstra and Optus, TPG to an extent, and I think Aussie Broadband started coming around that time too. So you got these big juggernauts, new market entrants as well. Eventually, they're going to see this same opportunity that you're seeing and the wave that's coming. They've got brand equity. They've got big media and budget spends to throw at things. They've got the existing customer base that they can cross-sell or merge things into. But paint that picture of what you were facing in those first couple of years when you went from 0 to 35,000.
Yeah, I think we're facing some, I'm going to say good things, right? Because the big guys had way over costs with delivering services to consumers, right? They were making 70 points of margin with ADSL, so they had shareholders to listen to and revenue numbers to hit, which the NBN just wasn't going to get them the revenue numbers they require or the profit numbers they required, right? And so sure, they had big budgets and they were out there, but when I say I'll say that I wouldn't even say they were a challenge. I'll say the challenge was getting our name out there and educate and being one of the first people to go and educate the market to switch to NBN. Because if you think about it, during the NBN period, they went bust with their budgets multiple times. They changed their direction multiple times. The government changed, you name it. And so the confidence level from the NBN from the consumers was challenging, right? But we knew that eventually everybody had to switch full stop. And so our goal was to how do we focus on and because the NBN rolled out in certain areas, we were able to target specifically areas that were rolling out, so we could keep our costs down when it comes to a marketing perspective because we knew where it was happening and who was getting connected, you know. And so that was the great thing of it, right? We could be very targeted and limit our dollar spends in those type of things, but then. And then if you look at comparison sites because another strategy of ours growth was comparison sites, and if you looked at comparison sites back then like Finder, CanStar, Blue, Whistleout, etc., they were driving a lot of business to those sites. But if you chose NBN to compare, there was only a few providers, and it was us. So again, we had sort of a bit of a niche right in the market to take advantage early on. And that was the opportunity we saw. The challenge growing in that time was just learning about the variables that come with NBN. Like if you know the NBN has got 7 different types of technology. Your house could have a different problem to the house next door to you. There's no consistency. There's in some areas you need a technician to come out. There's a wireless version. There's a satellite version. There's all these different things. And honestly, we say we sell the best of a bad situation. To be honest, right? If somebody said to me, "Can you choose?" I don't know. If you had a choice of going back when the NBN started to have another way, I would vote for another way, right? Because it just wasn't rolled out properly. But it's what we've got, and we make the best out of it. And I think that's what we did. We educated a market that was getting told that in a couple of years you're going to have to go to the NBN, and they were probably getting scared about it. We took the bull by the horns, as they say, and said, well, we're going to tell you how we're going to make it easier for you. Here's how it's doing it, and we put our name in a place where the others weren't competing. And I think that was the part of our growth that we got.
Right. Okay. So were there? I understand then. So you have there's a reason why some of the big guys might not want to switch or start pushing NBN until they see the need or the demand that they have to do it because of the sacrifice of margins. But when you were first going into market in 2016, 17, during that period where there was kind of still a switchover, who were the main competitors at the time?
Yeah, I mean, it's so competitors. And NBN grew. Yeah, NBN grew more ISPs. That's what it did. NBN enabled people to come out and build ISPs because I just think that people wanted to take advantage of it, just like us. So, but at that time, it was the people like Exitels of the world, iNets, etc. Even though iNet's a big company as well, but at that time they weren't owned by the TPG group and things like that, and so they were the other competitors that were out there, and sure, they had a lot more money than us in the market, but back then, what was the stigma, and the reason why we called the business mate was the stigma was that people did not trust or believe or know what they got themselves signed into in regards to telco. So people didn't understand the contracts that they were signed into. People thought they got taken for a ride. And all those providers I mentioned never had Australian, Aussie-based service, right? They were all offshore. And so that was the stigma around telco, is that if you're going to you're going to get a telco service, don't expect good service, because when you ring somebody, they're going to be in a different country and they have no clue what you're offering or how to service you. And I think we sort of switch that on its head. We said, who do you trust sometimes more than your family is your mates, right? And then that's probably the reason. That's the main reason why we called the business mate. And then we focus on Australian support because, one, it's a brand new technology that people have heard a lot of stories about that hasn't gone to plan. And two, the stigma in the telco market was that everything's outsourced. There's no Australians involved, and it's hard to get good service. And so what we did, we went out there with an Aussie-based service with a name that Aussies could resonate with, and with good pricing, and no reason but to give us a go. And that was our strategy.
Right, so that makes sense then. So just so if I've understood it right, trying to size this up so I understand it, hopefully everyone else does as well then. You've got this inevitable wave of NBN overtaking ADSL in the country. And at the time, you have these kind of big players who are still our big players today, but they were hesitant to be the first to switch in because the sacrifice to the margins that they'd start making. You guys saw that as an opportunity. You said, well, while these guys aren't going to be as competitive, how about we start following the footprints of where the NBN rolls out with our service? The challenge we have to face is getting people to A, know who the hell we are, and B, as a category, start trusting why you should be using the NBN because of the faults with the rollout that was happening at the time. What you needed to be able to do though is overcome the obstacles of obviously differentiating yourself in that market. Yep. So, well, who is mate and why should I choose you? And so you were saying the way you tried to differentiate yourself was in the service area.
Correct.
And what, no one else out of that competitive set were Australian based?
No, not the ones that. I'll say this in the nicest possible way. Not the competitors that mattered. In regards to us to get the share that we wanted, right? All the competitors that we saw as who were trying to challenge didn't have the onshore service, and back then, product reviews wasn't even a huge thing like it is now. And so, if you went to product review, it was 2 stars, 1 stars, but it wasn't as amplified as people use it now.
As in the actual website or organisation, product reviews.
Productreviews.com.au, and then also Google reviews at any review site,
gotcha. Yep.
Trustpilot, etc. Right?
Yep.
It wasn't as a big focus as it was back then as it is now from a telco perspective, right?
Right.
Sorry.
No. Okay, that makes sense then. So so you've got this service as a differentiator. Another differentiator you mentioned was what, pricing? So you were priced cheaper? Was it contract based? Like how did you work the pricing out?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So we went straight out with at that time, if I look back, pretty much contract was the norm with telco, right? Whether it be for your internet service, whether it be for your mobile service, that was just what you did.
12 months,
but which drove the stigma around, you lock me into something that I don't understand, and you have come up with a better offer, and I can never change, right? And so what we did, we went straight out with no contracts to NBN and unlimited data from the word go, right? And if you look back in the history of NBN, different competitors came out with contracts and limited their data, right? We went out straight out with unlimited data and straight with no contracts and no bull, right? It was about no bullshit, NBN service, get you connected. You can call somebody that understands what the hell you're talking about, and let's get you going, right? And I think the biggest thing, which I probably left out before, is that how we I hate the word pivot, right? But how we pivoted our business was by that, or how other companies were trying to pivot their business to NBN was costly, because they've built all this infrastructure to sign people up to ADSL. We haven't built any infrastructure. We built it all for NBN. And so we went burning and churning dollars in two different networks. We weren't trying to build an ADSL network, or we're just building an NBN network. And through our wholesale, we also sold ADSL where there was an NBN. But I think we were very efficient with our dollars and spend. And I personally believe we saw the future, right, where the future was going early on compared to some of our competitors saw it.
Well, the Wayne Gretzky quote, play where the puck is going, not where it is, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's interesting. All right. Okay, so you have some clear customer-orientated differentiators. You've understood that the market is used to the dissatisfaction of being stuck into the long-term contracts with all these hidden surprises you get when you go to pay your bill. You find out you've gone over on your data and you get whacked again. So you've got unlimited data. You can use as much as you want. There's the trend in people consuming more data, streaming TV, games, music, so forth. So there's a need for more data. There's a dislike for the little surprises when you get your bill with all this sort of extra stuff that comes from that data. There's a dissatisfaction with the long-term contracts. There's a dissatisfaction when I need to go and deal with that dissatisfaction being the customer service. So you've got all these pain points that you've captured, and then you've built a product around that, and you've worked your pricing for that to make sense. And then you've been able to launch it or scale it through market. Take me through that. So you said before the aggregates, the finders and so forth. Were they a key component? Was there anything else?
Absolutely. So I think for us, when you're in a startup, you always start away you have to, and you evolve away you need to, right? That's how I see it. And when we started, we basically played where we could afford. Simple as that. And from a comparison site point of view, and I call them comparison site, which are aggregators, right? It was just they had the market presence, they had the market spending to get people to their site. All we need to do is have the right offer to convert on their site, and we would get the wins. And so that's where we focus, because we could get our brand and our name out there way more than we could do from on our own. And back then, I mean, I think Facebook ads and Google ads were a thing, but if I look back in 2016, if you saw the scale of where they've come from, where they are now, it was very different in regards to how people were consuming and being advertised to. But then that's the comparison sites was the best place to go to get us out there for the least amount of costs, right? Right. And I think a lot of smaller competitors that came into market saw that as well, right? And since the day we started with someone like a Whistler out to where it is today, it's gone up nearly double the price per click, right? And so, but I mean, that was a means to an end, right? So our view was that if you look at how we grew there based on price and value, and our key messages like Australian Aussie-based call center. We allowed partners to market to the people and to get them in, and we just had the best price to get them from a conversion point of view. But you know what? Lo and behold, years and years later, the comparison sites are, to me, some of them are necessary evil. But now it's all about value, not always fighting on price, right? It's gone. It's like mobile phones back in the day. People had $1. I used to work for Mobile Innovations, and I was doing the $1 3310s for a $9 plan, and you got unlimited calls or whatever it was. And and when a new technology is taking place, people go out there to get market share. Once the market is full, it's all about switching, and it's all about profitability. And so you're seeing that's exactly what happened with NBN. It was the NBN will come out with marketing development funds for ISPs like us to go hard, and it allowed us to cheapen our prices, give away more, and things like that to get houses connected. But now, pretty much the whole rollout's done, right? Apart from new houses that are getting built, and so now it's a switch market. And if you realise, it's all about value now. It's all about margin. It's all about quality over quantity to a certain degree. People are happy to lose customers to get a higher price. But that's the way the world works, right? You grab it, you got something new, you grab some share. Once the pipes are full, well, how do we get it back to profitability? And that's where we are today. And so based on that, we had to shift our business, right? So we went from hunting brand new and having all these new customers that weren't on the NBN and giving away a price and having an incentive by the NBN to do that, to no incentives anymore. You've still got to service these customers, but you have to win them with all these people offering the same thing, and they're already connected. Why would they want to switch, right? Because it's convoluted and things like that. And that's where that's where our direct marketing activity comes into play, and that's where our reseller partners have to come into play as well. Now it's all about service, quality, and at the right price as well.
Okay, so take me through how you got to this point of understanding what needed to happen. So let's look at things we'll try to compartmentalize this. Those first few years, the big players are kind of just sitting, watching. You guys, the market itself is developing and it's growing. So you're going in there. There's not as competitive.
Yep.
You have clear differentiators.
Yep.
Biggest challenge being people trusting NBN.
Yep.
And people knowing who the hell you are and why they should pick you. Yep. Okay, so you find a vessel to scale being through comparison sites largely, yep. and you have great product pricing and everything to meet the market.
Exactly.
Okay, so you scale, boom, you go
yep.
really quickly up to 35,000+ people. All right, then you've got the inevitable happening. You have these big brands saying, now it's our time to join you. You've got the yep. Telstras, the Optuses, the TPGs. They start coming into the market. So then we start hitting a point of maturity where most people have NBN and they're going, well, who do I need to pick from? There's other competitors in the place too, Superloop, Aussie Broadband and so forth in there as well. So take me through the challenges as they evolved for you.
Yep.
And what you guys did in order to then grow from that 30, 45,000 up to the hundreds of thousands that you've got now, yep. because there's clear change in obstacles. Obviously, some would still be the same, but things that changed. What did you do? What were the challenges, and how did you overcome them to get to where you are?
Yeah, I mean, the clear challenge is people with a bit deeper pockets. Simple as that, right? If I look at, I think we built a really good foundation for ourselves. We built a bit of a reputation early on in the NBN market, and we're going well. But then, to your point, big competitors come in, start focusing on NBN, like the Telstras and the TPGs of the world, and especially Aussie Broadband. And what happens is they've got deeper pockets and get their name out there in more places in front of people, and that ultimately became our challenge. We took a big step back to determine what we were going to do, right? And the first thing we did was focus on building our brand, right, and making sure people resonate with who we are when we're in front of them, because we're going to have one chance to get in front of them with the budget that we've got versus, Telstra or Aussie Broadband are going to have 5 chances, right? And so how do you win instantly? Well, I think, we looked at our brand, our tone of voice, how we were being represented, where we were selling, why we were selling there, what is our new offering to the market, what is the value that we can get out of our customers, what about our infrastructure, our systems, our process, how do we deliver faster service, how do we deliver better service in regards to self-care features and all these different things. And so we needed to really chuck out the old playbook and build a new one. And this is probably from the beginning of 2019, which is where that's where I finally came back full-time from Singapore. And, we decided, first of all, build our brand. And the first thing we did was put representative people to represent our brand. So, we looked at football as a goal. And we had Maddie Ryan, who's the Socceroos captain, and Samantha Kerr, who we know is a phenomenon, if that's the right word I'm saying. And back then she was good, but now she's freaking awesome, right?
Yeah.
And the World Cup's on our doorsteps with the women, and she's the captain, and she's been with us nearly 4 years as one of our representatives. And so we said, okay, how do we get instant credibility if you see us for the first time? Well, the Mate brand is not like the other telcos in the market, as in Exitel and iNet and all those tech jargons. Ours was a lot easier to understand from a consumer point of view. And we did a focus group once back then where they had 30 people in the room, and they chucked all these brands, telco brands, in front of them, and they said, pick one that you would choose tomorrow because you know, or pick one that you would like to give a go that you've never heard of. And out of 29 of the group, chose us as the one I'll give a go to, because, and that was purely, all I did was put the name Mate next to them. And so we knew that was a killing factor from our brand point of view. So we started by building some ambassadors, because when you see an ad with somebody you love, you're going to take interest. But if you see an ad with a word and not knowing who they are, you're not going to get much of a click, right? And so we put people that represent our brands that people knew, which was the next part of that. And then we looked at who could sell for us as well. So we brought on channel partners that had reach and their own databases and all these different things. So how do we go to people that have a database that's already passionate about them? All right, and how do we penetrate that way instead of going out and putting a bunch of billboards and a bunch of TV ads and a bunch of radio ads and hoping somebody's going to listen and somebody's going to come and have a go at us, right? Yep. Or give us a go. And so that was so we built a channel strategy to get out there. We built a brand that when you find us, you can resonate with or understand, or you find somebody there that you know of, like Sam and Matt. And we went hard with that. And then we looked at we also looked at pricing as well. We said, well, how do we get better pricing but not always compete on price? And so we looked at bundles options, right? We went hard with bundles, and what I mean by that is bundling internet and mobile. And so until December 2019, we weren't even selling mobile. We didn't have a mobile offer, and we're only selling NBN. So we knew that we needed to start bundling to save people money to get customers to stay with us, especially from a churn perspective. So we went to Telstra. We got what they call an MVNO, and we went and sold Telstra wholesale mobiles, and that allowed us to bundle and save money, people shitload of money, and when we got people in, we kept those customers to the point that our tenure at the moment is about 18 months, which is unforeseen in the telco market. Right?
Yeah.
And sorry to cut you off, but that was, I'll call that phase one of staying competitive and growing, right? And then phase two was all about infrastructure, right? Like, for example, as an NBN reseller or as an NBN ISP, you have a middleman, right, which is a wholesaler, right? So you can either buy from the wholesaler or you connect your system direct to NBN. Right. And the benefit of that is that the NBN is a government-owned entity, and so whether you're Telstra with 2 million customers, whether you're Mate with a couple 100,000 customers, if you buy direct from NBN, you get the same price, no matter how much scale you've got. And so we knew that we needed to get rid of our wholesaler and go direct to NBN to get the margin benefits like all our competitors are getting, and that's what we've did in the last 8 months. We have built our own network, and we make our own internet now, which means that we've got the same margin and the same pricing that your Telstras and your TPGs and your Aussie Broadbands are getting for NBN, which is allowing us to put more margin in our product, deliver better value, and do more marketing. Right.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that's. Hey, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's in depth. Okay. So once again, let me try to take a pulse of this. So let's look at the first phase. So first phase, we're now moving into this new matured market with new competitors coming in. At this point, you realize that your branding is going to have to be the thing that's going to be, it has to be something you're going to have to differentiate with, but you haven't got the big budgets as what the bigger guys have, right? So you say, well, we have to be more targeted and clear with where we're going to put our branding, and we don't have many shots to fire, if any. Yep. So when we do that, the things that we need to solve is A, generating awareness, and B, credibility for who we are as quickly as we can. So the strategy you employed to do that was, if we can get people with credibility, we're going to build, such as Sam Kerr, we're going to build our credibility and our brand equity through association. So we can be a part of them, and that's going to help pull us across. Okay, so you've got a technique or a strategy in order to get ourselves attached to something, to build some degree of brand equity and awareness. So when people go to market and they're looking around, they can at least have someone they're going to trust, or if they're going to switch, they know who you are, so that's now a factor. Then they go into things such as pricing. So pricing is another area of pricing and other areas I want to start making decisions on if I'm going to choose you or not choose you. Take me, just so I understand this part here. When you first went to market, the biggest differentiators were your Australian service, your no lock-in contracts, and things like that. Were they still differentiating at this time, or was everyone doing something like that now?
A lot more were doing it, but it was still differentiating at that time as well. So the Aussie based support and that unlimited contracts, no contracts and unlimited data was still something that people ask today about. But if you look at today, it's the norm, right? What we're doing now is absolutely the norm.
Yep.
And so and I truly believe that now when it comes to telco, it's about credibility. It's about product reviews, of what people think about your service, and it's about your brand as well, and what people think, how they resonate with your brand. We're in the content world now, right? We're in the content. Content tells a story subtly. If I look at TikTok and all those different things, the things that I've bought from TikTok in the last 6 months, just because I resonate with the video, which I don't need, is huge, right? And so I truly believe that brand is our brand, and when people get to us and the tone of voice that we have and the messages that we deliver are the key telling factor for how we're getting customers today.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I definitely want to go into that because I think that's a very important one. Okay. So the big differentiators became somewhat of a cost of entry, the table stakes. So most people were doing a lot of these differentiators, not all of them, obviously, but some of them, enough so that people say, well, that's not special anymore. So you found that brand and the brand experience as an extension is one area you can play and win and do something different in order to extend the value or perceived value of what it is that you do. And to build around that perceived value, some of the things you did was move into bundling. Yep. So that's not just as an acquisition strategy, but as a retention. So I'm going to stay with you because now I can also have my mobile with you as well. So you've got a play with that. Another one you mentioned was the channel strategy. So you went into your channel partners. Explain that to me. So how did you position or pitch yourself to them? Why did they want to take you on, or why did they push you versus some others? So explain that well to me.
So, channel partners have gone from... So, let me take a step back in the original telco worlds, right? If you remember the days of TeleChoice and who else was there? C21 Communications and T-Life and all these different partners, Crazy Johns, name it, right? None of them exist anymore, right? Yeah. And the reason why they don't exist is because the telco providers that gave them their service couldn't afford to pay them the commissions that they had, right? And so they all went by the wayside because they built a business on higher commissions, and that wasn't coming anymore because everybody had a mobile now, so it was a switch market, and getting share was way more valuable to a provider like a Telstra or an Optus versus switching, right? And so if I look today, we get more benefit from switching a customer from a different network to our network versus a brand new number, for example. And so that was the old channel strategy. Now the new channel strategy was how people become successful is about the quality of service they deliver. And so channel partners are looking for people that can give them the right level of service, not just to their customer, to them, to be able to sell effectively, right? And so if I look at the channel partners that we spoke to, I never achieved a channel partner based on the commissions that we gave. I achieved a channel partner from the level of service that we deliver to them to enable their sellers to sell more. Right.
The service to the channel partner?
Yeah. So the service that we deliver to the channel partner to allow the people within their organisation to sell our service and be able to sell our service and is the advantage that we get that they saw, right? Is the systems that we use to make sure that we communicate the right information, the training people that we have on the ground, our channel support number that they can call if they're in front of a customer and not sure about something, they can ring somebody directly and ask, and we can help them with it. The ease of selling via the portals that we give them, all these different things. And so we've won our channel strategy by the channel strategy support that we deliver, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Okay,
Yeah.
So the degree of effort and investment and care factor that you give to the channel partner is one area you're going to differentiate, because a lot of the other players, especially the bigger players, cannot do that and don't do that. Right.
Correct. There's no human touch, right? I mean, so one of the channel partners that we have, they know our people on the phone by name, right? Because they might call them twice a day or 3 times a day. But it's worth our investment because that one channel partner that we're talking to is maybe talking to 100 people. So we talk to one person. It's like train the trainer, right? Yeah. You talk to this person, you make sure they've got all the information, and they can go and tell 100 people. Imagine the cost of doing that from a comparison site, from a marketing activity. And so that's the value that the channel partners see. Because I said to them, if you're looking for the dollars that a Telstra or an Optus are going to give you, that's not where we're going to play. But what we're going to play is we're going to give you personalised service that's going to allow you to sell more, and that's where we won.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. And you're also validating your promise as a brand that they're selling, right? I mean, you're saying as a brand, we're all about service, customer experience. It's hard for them to believe that if the experience they get's shit.
Yeah.
So
great.
they're saying, well, this is what I get. I know that I can trust my customers because my brand, my reputation is going on every time I sell something to them. And if I put them on Mate and they like that experience, that becomes positive for me. So there is value in this being passed on, and I'm experiencing the thing that I'm selling.
Agreed. And again, I'll go back to brand as well, and how your brand can drive an instant reward, right? Because when I went to channel partner meetings, I got Sam Kerr to record a message and say, hey, you guys, love to see you part of the Mark's been telling me, everything about you guys, love to see you as part of the Mate family. And from the word go, they're in love with you. They're not getting that from a Telstra or someone else, right? And so I shouldn't bag Telstra. They're our MVNO partner. They help us a lot. We love you, Telstra. So that's where that credibility of Sam doing that message and being part of our team, drives instant connection. And I think, and that's why I know I mentioned that we give the right support to channel partners, but again, brand comes back into it. I'm telling you. It's huge. It's huge.
And I'm definitely going to touch on brand.
Yeah.
That's going to be our big nut to crack in a second. One last thing I want to get into is Fazio. You talk about infrastructure and product as an area for you to compete in, right?
Yep.
So take me through that. So take me through why did you have to do this, and what did it unlock for you?
Okay. So I'm going to put the idea of more infrastructure gave us more margin, right? Which means that we can do more things and be more aggressive. But I'm going to put that aside because that to me is not the biggest thing, right? It's one of the benefits of it. The biggest thing that infrastructure gave us was the agility and the ability to do what we want when we want to do it, and fast. That is the benefit of infrastructure. So, for example, we built our own billing system, which allowed us to all the payments of all our customers to go through our network. It allowed us to manage it properly, manage downtime, manage security, and all those different things, right? And we built our CRM, right? And our CRM allowed us to build all the different elements that we need to be competitive, right? If you look at our partners out there, right, all of them are outsourcing their CRMs, right? And they're outsourcing to very standard portals that cost $100,000 a change if they need something. If you're connecting direct to the NBN and connecting directly to Telstra systems from a mobile perspective, right, it is very convoluted, and you need a specialized sort of dev network and CRM to make that happen. And by us building ours, we built the ability to be able to agile and change when required. Now I'm going to go back to the past where Optus's biggest data breach, right, and how that was all over the news. Well, how did they do that? Well, it's because how that happened. Is because they've bought multiple businesses over the year. They've merged with Singtel, you name it. They've bought Amasim. They've got all these legacy systems. So when you've got this IT team that is outsourced and then outsourced again, is managing all these legacy systems, and no one actually knows where the
doors open.
Where it opens or who's actually owns what, and so it's so outsourced that they lost control of their data, right? I was at a talk and somebody said that a CTO said that the reason why Optus had the data breach is because they put the data on the internet and opened it up for people to go and see, and he said that's ultimately what they did. They gave the hackers a key, and the hackers just followed the Google Maps to find it, right? And so that's another thing why we did that as well from a security perspective. I think we completed our CRM migration in December. We did it in 6 weeks, where companies take 2 years to do it, right, which I was proud of. But the whole data breach at Optus was another, and that added another factor to telcos in regards to customer security and the questions they ask. We have, there's a lot of calls where customers come in, are you going to lose my data are you going to give my data away like Optus? And so we can say now, hey, we built our own CRM that's manufactured by us, not outsourced. The dev team and the CTO is in-house. We don't offshore it, nothing. It's all in-house with our business in Australia, right? And so we can hand on heart say that. And I think when we say that, people have a sense of, what's the word I'm looking for? A sense of a relief, right? Yeah. That, hey, I'm going to a telco partner who's got my details, who's got my credit cards, who's got my address and everything about me, who knows what I do on the internet all day, every day, who I call, when I call, and ultimately I can work out all their dirty secrets, right? But it's with mates all onshore, systems built by them, and I feel secure. Yeah. And so, and apart from margin, there's flexibility in us being able to go speed to market to be better, and security, and then also allowing us to scale our business. Like by having our own CRM allowed us to scale people that we bring into the business a lot easier as well. So if I look at when we turn on the different department, we can easily build another function or module of the CRM to easily cater for a different department. That some of the tools that I mentioned around channel support, we built into our CRM. Before we were outsourcing or getting a different database, and data integrity and data analytics were a pain in the ass, right? Because had to mash 2 systems or 3 systems together. Now we're all in one, and it's easy.
It gives you that speed to respond and speed to value.
Yeah, and just understand where your business is going in every single part in one source of truth.
And you can put your arms around things rather than having less control. That makes a lot of sense. One thing we haven't touched on, so we've talked about product, we've talked about pricing, and we've talked a lot about brand, but we're going to go into more into detail into that. One thing that you mentioned, and I think it's worth spending a few minutes on, is people and culture. Mm-hmm. So how have you thought about that as a vessel to grow with the challenges of everything you're facing? So you're obviously the usual challenges of recruitment, finding the right sort of people, why should they come work for you, how to find the best people, how to retain the best people, and building a culture that supports the growth that you have, and that bringing the type of people in who can help you grow. Have you approached the people side of the equation?
Yeah, I mean, I like to say that that's an easy one for me, right? Because this business started with 19 of my family in my auntie's backyard with my auntie that has taken care of us for years. And we come from a very strong Italian family. The 2 other owners are my cousins and my identical twin brother. I think by starting the business in my auntie's backyard, we had my auntie cooking for us every day, and when tools are down, it's a family environment and family event, and people are just catching up and having a great time, and then once we moved to a proper office, keeping the culture, to your point, we took my auntie with us. It was simple, right? We took my auntie with us.
That's the trick, guys. Yeah. Everyone listening to this, just find Mark's auntie.
I should say Zia. We took Zia with us and built her a kitchen because she loves to cook for people, right? And what we did, we just amplified that. So we obviously have hired people outside the family now, and we bring them in, and the first thing they do is they see the business, they see who we are, but then they come downstairs, meet my auntie, get a plate of meatballs, and she asks them about their life, what's going on today, where's your family from, where'd you go to school, questions. A million questions, and people feel part of the family straight away. And I think that if I talk about culture, that culture in that environment allows you to and makes your day better no matter how bad it is, right? And we do a lot of things, like, for example, I mean, I know a lot of people say family, and we truly are a family because like on Fridays we have most Fridays when it's school, we get the children of the people that work at Mate to bring their kids into the office, and we do arts and crafts downstairs, right? Just a way for them to get to spend some time with them during the week when they're always at work and they miss out on the simple things like dropping school drop-offs and things like that. And so I think that and there's a lot to it that goes with that, but I think the family atmosphere has allowed us to create the culture that we have, and you fight for your family, right? And that's, I think we've built a culture that people want to fight for the person sitting next to them because they actually care about what they're doing. There's a lady named Mary who will probably hear this at one point, who's she's been with us for 6 months, and or maybe a bit more. More than that. But she said to us that this is my last job. I'm going to die here with you guys. I love it. I don't want to move anywhere. And she's an older lady, and she goes, everybody has we pay out on each other a little bit as well. We have a very relaxed environment, but hardworking at the same time. And she has a great chat with my auntie downstairs, gets fed, and she goes, this is better than me being at home, right? You know what I mean? And so, yeah.
How's that kind of, if it has changed or been, how have you been able to manage that as you've gone from the 19 to 130?
Yeah.
Because I can appreciate as you get bigger, the little problems can start to become bigger, and things you couldn't imagine start coming to reality. So how have you been able to deal and manage culture as it's evolved and people as it's evolved, as your company has evolved?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a direct thing to say that it's just that we do. That's exactly. I think one thing that we do well is we have a thing in our business called PPC, planning, process, communication, right? And we make sure that every time we do a change or do something new, there's a plan around it, there's a process around it, and there's a communication piece to ensure that everybody knows what we're doing and when we're doing it and why we're doing it, right? And then we have the 5WH in our business: who, what, when, where, why, and how. And so, and I think we follow those processes to communicate to our staff, which I think empowers them to buy into what we're doing, which then creates culture that they believe in, because we're getting them involved in the end decision, end goal, right? And so when you scale, the meatballs are only going to go so far, right? And when you come to work, you'll have that family feel and that family thing. But when you start working and getting into the crux of it, like look at COVID and how things amplified like that, I think our processes and what I just mentioned before about our PPC and our 5WH really got everybody to understand where we're going, why we're doing it, where we're headed, and what's going to happen next. And they feel empowered, right? They feel empowered. I know that you made a decision, and this is the decision you made, and this is the reason why we're going this way. I'm in, man. Let's go do it, right? And because if I look at the last 12 months, last 15 months probably is the biggest test to our culture. We changed billing systems, so everybody needed to learn how to the customers got billed a different way completely in the last 15 months, call it, right? So everybody needs to learn a different way of how to service a customer when it came to billing. Then we changed our network, right? And we built our own network. So everybody had to change the way they connect to customers and the way the systems work. Then we changed our CRM, and then everybody needed to learn how they connect the customer, how to service a customer, how to add a note. So you think about that, right? And a lot of people don't like change. In the last 12 to 15 months, it could have broken us, right? In regards to culture, because we were changing so much. But how we kept the business and the culture intact was communication and getting them involved in the decisions that we made and the reasons why, and letting people have their say, right? And then keeping the family feel. We have upstairs in our business where I call where the magic happens, and downstairs is where you can relax and feel like a normal person again, right? And I think we kept that all the way through during this hard time. We told people what was going on, and I think they felt like they were part of the decisions. And I hope, and they were part of the decisions, right? And so I think that's how we kept it.
Wow. Yeah. So there's a lot to be said about systems, processes, and some good meatballs.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, systems drives your outcome. So, I mean, you have to have the right balance of people and systems. But honestly, is there a process and a system to manage it, you always get the right outcomes because it pushes you to do the right thing.
Yeah. And you clearly have these clear campfires that people rally around and cuddle around.
Absolutely.
That's
I like that idea. Campfire. I'm going to call it that. It's pretty much what it is.
You can take it.
Yeah, I'll take it.
At least I've given you something.
Yeah.
Okay, last one, brand. So you've clearly, the thing that I've picked up through this whole conversation is one of the things you've been able to do from day one through to current period, and how you've been able to grow through all the challenges you mentioned, the people not knowing who you are, people not trusting who or what the NBN is, people having distrust for telcos, you not having the sort of budgets, the big telcos coming in, then throwing their budgets around, all the sort of challenges as they've come through. One thing you guys that I've been able to identify have done really well is you've been able to pick where to play to win. So we can't win if we be this, we can't win if we play there. this is where we have to play to win, and you kind of go super focused and you're able to double down on that. At the start, it was, you know, the comparison sites, it was certain USPs that were the differentiator to the pain points. It's the brand differentiated to everything else. It's the antagonist to everything telco is. People, even now, even more so now with Optus data leakage, you're constantly thinking about what is it the market doesn't like, how are we the opposite of that, and your brand kind of rallies and builds around that. And you've done that from day one to now. So my question is how much research or planning went into the differentiators and the brand and what you're able to execute versus how much you kind of just fell into?
Yeah, so I think research was a big deal, right? And so when I think you start as a business with gut feeling, in my opinion, gut feeling and what you see as a consumer in that industry. And then when you start going, you start getting into the weeds and the detail of it. And so if I look at research, I've looked at a lot of research over the years. I've looked at, I've gone to focus group, look at brand studies. I've looked at, what traction we get from a GA point of view, from a Google Analytics, from a, you name it, from a big data, which is a media buy platform that you understand what people are buying. Looked at where people are playing, all these different things. And I use that data to find out where people aren't playing or where people aren't putting their dollars, right? And that has driven our strategy where we are today. So if you look at our marketing strategy today, I mean, apart from obviously brand and the things that we put around that, we focus on where people aren't, right? So, like our always on above the line is SEN. I don't know if you know SEN, yep. Sports Entertainment Network. Radio, we focus on sports because we think sports are drive passionate people, and we want passionate people as our customers because they stay longer, right? Yep. We focus on sponsorship, right? And if you look at what we do, one of our biggest pillars is sponsorship. And people tell me, well, why do you do sponsorship? It gets no return, right? But people don't know how to execute on sponsorship, right? A sponsorship is got way more. It's got not. If you look at Central Coast Mariners, it's got 9 months of repetition for a very minimal cost versus doing 9 months of advertising on TV, hoping somebody's going to see you, right? Mm-hmm. You've got databases, you've got activation on ground, you've got print publications, you've got LEDs in stadium, you've got branding on shirt in screens, you've got additional media where a story gets into the paper and things like that, and above all, it drives credibility, right? People seeing your brand with a sporting team of some sort that they're passionate about drives credibility and instantly gives you a consideration point for that consumer. And if I look at those, so if I look at the whole concept of going where other telcos aren't, has been my whole strategy from day one. And if I look at, if you look at sport, apart from Telstra owning the rights to AFL and to rugby league at a high level, you don't see a lot of telcos in the advertising, in the sponsorship space. If you look at football, there's us and My Republic, who fell over recently, and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah. So so you've thought about where you can put your brand in order to get the most exposure and value for that awareness and that credibility. Yeah. In terms of the bringing the brand position to life. So as a position, tell me, I don't want to get into the jargon of the marketing world because you can interpret that 1,000 ways. But if I was to sum up what your brand is or your value of Mate, what is it? How would you kind of describe Mate?
Yeah, I mean, Mate is a value-driven telco provider with the right service for consumers to have the best possible experience.
Right. So service, experience, value. We kind of put them as a key DNA elements. Correct. Right. So then, in order to bring that brand to life, it's obviously more than the visual. It's more than what you just show people, and more than where you show it. It's actually how you experience the business itself. So every interaction I have with you is me interacting with the brand and is me experiencing the brand. And my experience with your product, with your service, with your people, with every touch point is brand building. Like that's the way I see it anyway. I don't just see it as advertising and branding. Okay. So value and service and experience, how have you tried to control that within the world of Mate? So what have you done to try to create consistency everywhere to make sure that brand lives in every touch point?
I mean, I think it comes down to having the right process to deliver the right outcomes, right?
Yep.
I mean, you can talk about brand guidelines and things like that, but I think we have a very detailed brand guidelines when it comes to how our message gets put into a certain different medium, right? Whether it's a channel partner, whether it's a Google ad, whether it's a sponsorship or whatever it is. And I think by driving consistency is all about having the right. Again, to go back to it, the right plan, the right process, and the right communication to let people know how you should show up, right?
Yeah.
We go from, I mean, you make a very valid point, because the way we communicate to our staff to answer phone is use the word, "How you going, mate?" You know, really core to what we're trying to achieve. And so, you know, if I look at people that go and sell for us, that was the biggest challenge for me, is making sure that they ensure that we show up in the right way, even though we're potentially not always doing the activity or the advertising they're doing on behalf of us, right? But I mean, you know, we have a bunch of different templates they can simply just plug in their logos and their message into. We make sure that we have an easy sort of checkpoint that they can run things by us to ensure that they're doing the right thing, and so on and so forth. And so, I mean, I think getting to your point, managing the consistency of where it lives and having the same tone of voice and making sure the right things are delivered in the right ways that we want them is all about the process that manages that, right?
Yeah.
We've got systems, we've got people, and we've got plans.
And it sounds like the DNA of what I was talking about, the value, experience, and service, those, if you take them as little DNA strands, in all those processes, systems, people, you've plugged it in. So in the people culture, it sounds like that there's just this emphasis and belief and commonality around, we want to give people better service. We care about value.
Correct, yeah.
We care about the experience that they're having. And that's also informing your business decisions about, we have an Australian call center. We have Australian operations. We are an Australian business. We care about the things that the common Australian person care about. And we're going to build our product and pricing and business around these things. Yep. So it's kind of taking that customer orientated view of what does the market need and what are their pain points. And we've built our brand around that, and we're building the brand equity in all those sort of touch points that they're getting. That's what I'm picking up from everything
absolutely.
you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it, the way we name our plans, you know, our plans are called Good Mates and Best Mates and Elite Mates. And so it's definitely consistent across the board, right?
Well, wondrous. Thank you very much, Mark. I think we should wrap it up. I've taken up enough of your time.
No,
mate.
thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your story, how you've been able to fly your kite in the face of all those wins and obstacles. For anyone who wants to join, mate, follow Mark as well. I'm sure we're going to put them in the show notes where they can find you on LinkedIn, but also the Mate website. Make sure you go check them out. And if you are considering switching, we could talk about that for another whole day about the switching market. If you are considering switching, definitely join, mate. I'm a member. My family's a member. My in-laws, everyone. I've become an advocate. So definitely go do it. And thanks for joining us, mate. Appreciate it.
Thanks, mate. No worries. Thanks,
mate.
Thanks, guys.
All right.